All right, once again, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 10th Annual Mothman Festival. I haven't done this yet all morning, but it kept slipping my mind. But let's give Jeff Walmsley and his entire staff a great big round of applause for a great job. Also, let's give Bob over here a great big hand. He's our sound tech today. Done a tremendous job. And I never thought about this until Alan and I were talking a minute ago. Bob was asking if he liked his backdrop. He said, yeah. He said, I like Mothman. And he said, that's the reason I'm here. And I couldn't think about it. I said, well, that's why we're all here. And if it wasn't for Mothman, we wouldn't be here. So let's give Mothman a hand. Before I bring the next speaker on, real quick, I'm going to remind you of some things going on today. Of course, we'll have speakers on the hour every day up until 4 o'clock. And don't forget, tonight, the hay rides, the TNT hay rides. Take a trip into the Erie TNT area to find the elusive Mothman in the dark. They start at 8 and run until whenever it ends. It's located at the West Virginia Farm Museum, just north of downtown. The tickets are $5 for adults, $3 for kids 10 and under, and they're available at the information booth up there on the street. So that's tonight. If you've never gone, how many have never gone on the hay ride? You need to go because it's an awesome experience. I'll tell you that. I was on it last year, and it was awesome. And also, they are running the downtown tram today if you want to see Point Pleasant but don't want to lose your parking spot. All aboard the downtown tram, which takes you to on a historic tour of Point Pleasant. Tickets are $2 a person. Don't say where the tickets are available for that. I'm going to imagine the information booth. So, and then tonight at 6 o'clock, they will be screening a couple of films right here at this theater, starting with The Eyes of Mothman at 6 o'clock. And if you not saw that one, I was telling somebody asked me earlier which is the best Mothman documentary out there. I've watched several of them, and I'll have to say The Eyes of Mothman is the best of all of them. It's they go into a lot of depth with that one. So that's at 6 o'clock. If you've not seen it, it'll be right here. And then at 9 o'clock, they will be screening Mothman Prophecies right here as well. So that gives you an idea of what's going on today, because a lot of times you're out there on the street, you don't hear things going on. So if you want to stop by the information booth there and pick up a brochure, it's got a schedule of events on that as well. Come on in, folks. We haven't brought our speaker on yet. So come on in and have your seat. Honored today to introduce this next gentleman to you. He is going to be speaking on the subject of UFOs. Should be a very interesting presentation. How many of you actually believe in aliens and UFOs? Wow. Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you Mr. Alvin Caviness.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Anybody? Okay, I heard it, yeah. I was up late last night with a bunch of rowdy researcher friends, and I'm still suffering from a Pepsi hangover this morning. I think I'll probably be able to get through it okay. I have a website. It's www.cavinessreport.com, and I've loaded it down with a lot of research that I've done over the past 12 years. I'm going to be working from my notes for a little while first and get some things out in a certain order, and I want to leave plenty of time for questions and answers. I'm sure that folks will have some questions after I present this material. I want to focus mainly on the things I've confirmed so far in my 12 years of investigations of UFOs. I've been studying UFOs since 1999, and I could never say that I saw one until the year 1994. I have a background in aviation and astronomy. I was in the Navy for 10 years, working on jets, sailing around the world on aircraft carriers. I was also in the Army National Guard for 2 years and worked on helicopters. I was a very active amateur astronomer for over a dozen years and ran a local astronomy club for 2 years. And I've logged 456 parachute jumps in earlier years. So I've been in and out of airplanes a lot and pretty well know what's supposed to be up in the sky. So I pretty well know my aviation and my astronomy, you know, to be in this research business. When I see something in the sky, I can usually identify it. If I cannot, I can usually explain it away as being something normal, just under unusual circumstances. I could talk all day about UFOs and what I think about them, but today I chose to just talk about what I've been able to confirm so far in the past 12 years. I haven't confirmed everything I've ever heard about as far as UFOs go, but I have indeed confirmed a few things, and those few things tell me just about everything I need to know as far as this phenomenon being real or not. And my findings, in my opinion, are only of value if I share them with people, and this is probably more than half the reason that I do what I do, and probably the same for other researchers. There's a lot of great people out there in the field that are trying to study this phenomenon and figure out what the heck it is. There's reasons why it's going as slow as it's gone so far, and reasons why we've progressed to the point we have also. But I'll have some time for questions and answers too. I want to try to keep my presentation fairly brief so we'll have time to discuss things. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. When I was in the 7th grade, I first found out that UFOs might very well be real and not just a creation of Hollywood and science fiction writers. I read many books on UFOs and realized that they could indeed be real, at least possibly. And when I was older, I did a lot of stargazing as an amateur astronomer, but I hardly ever saw anything that seemed like it could be a UFO. And I did a lot of stargazing. But in 1994, all that changed. I tracked a large unknown spacecraft in space for over 2 minutes. I was able at the time to confirm that it was in space. The object was high enough at that time to catch the sun's rays and shine enough for us to see it like a satellite going over. And it had to be very, very high up to do that because the sun had set behind us over around 2 hours earlier. So it was good and dark where we were. And as it went farther away, it began to lose its glow as it went over toward the east where the shadow of the Earth is cast out into space. And satellites that are reflecting sunlight, when they get over that part of the sky, they'll tend to dim out and you won't be able to see them anymore because they've lost their glow, their reflection. And as it lost its glow, and I was looking at it through the telescope, I was left with an object that had 3 white lights on it. This was no satellite. The satellites don't have lights on them in the telescope. And they were in a triangle-shaped formation, just 3 white lights. And there was a red light steadily burning in the center of it. Now I could see this formation of lights just as easily as I could see an airplane going over in a pair of binoculars. It was not hard, but this object was probably 400 miles away. It's a long ways, and the telescope I was using was a backyard telescope. It wasn't large, but it was sizable, but not that big. I didn't realize I could see something like that from such a distance, but it was very easy to see it. The object had to be large, and it had to be at least 300 or 400 miles away because of the angle it was from me and the altitude it had to be. The space shuttle was not up that week, so I ruled that out while I was watching it. And the only other large object that we had in orbit in space was the Russian Mir space station. It wasn't the Russian Mir space station. That was a no-brainer. It was something unusual. This thing was either a top secret craft of some kind in space, or it had to be extraterrestrial. It was one or the other. And a fellow astronomer of mine, he tried to console me by saying, well, maybe it's just a secret government project. Well, my next question was, well, which government? And he had no answer for me. So this worried me. Somebody was flying some awfully advanced technology without anybody knowing. Who was it? So it really bothered me a lot. Well, 5 years later, in 1999, I decided to catch up on the latest studies of UFOs, and I set my VCR to record some UFO documentaries to watch later. And when I did see them, The first documentary I watched shocked me. In Belgium in 1989 to 1993, many people had reported seeing strange craft in their skies, some up close and near the ground. Most witnesses described large, flat, triangle-shaped craft that hovered at times and moved silently. The objects were generally described to be about 300 feet across. That's about the size of a football field. I had made some mathematical calculations and discovered that my object in 1994 was somewhere between 120 feet and about 800 feet across, somewhere within that range. So these eyewitness accounts fit right into my sighting. And the lights, well, I didn't believe these craft in Belgium were top secret government projects, because why would any government let anybody know that they had this kind of technology? You certainly wouldn't want our enemies to know about it, then they'd go trying to obtain it. One craft was seen right over a building one night in downtown Brussels, Belgium. On at least 2 occasions, NATO stated that they had seen these things on radar and had scrambled F-16 fighter jets after them at least twice, and the objects would outmaneuver them each time. Sometimes they were reported moving slowly across fields with strong searchlight beams shining down to the ground while moving just above the trees and over fields. Someone had shot a video of one of these objects as it flew over, and when I saw the video, that's when my jaw dropped. I saw the exact same formation of lights I had seen through my telescope in 1994. At this point, I realized that what these people saw in Belgium were spacecraft, because I'd seen one of these same things up in space. So they're definitely capable of space flight. But whose spacecraft were these? These things were silent and they were massive. They could maneuver in unbelievable ways. Some were moving very slowly at times, then suddenly would shoot away, and in 2 or 3 seconds be several miles away and stop instantly. I could not conclude that these spacecraft were built with human technology. It just didn't seem believable to me. The ET hypothesis was the only thing that made any sense at this point. I had to realize at this point that UFOs were indeed real. At least for me they were. And that they were being operated by some types of beings other than human. Knowing this put me into a dilemma. And I couldn't go the rest of my life wondering about all this stuff and just sitting on this knowledge. I needed answers. And there had always been lots of people over the years claiming to see alien ships in various parts of the world. I read about them in magazines and books and seen them on TV and so forth. But I realized that I would never be content unless I went out into the real world and found out for myself what was going on. So I needed confirmation about all this and lots of it. So I basically put my hat and coat on and went out the front door and started seeking all this stuff out. I wanted to find out where in the real world all this was going on, not just in books and on TV. And in just 12 years, I wasn't able to confirm everything being claimed by other people, but I confirmed a lot. And I want to share that with you today with the following. UFOs, these are conclusions I've drawn based on what I've seen. These are hard confirmations I've been able to make. And you're welcome to rely on this information if you wish, or at least just ponder it for what it's worth. And you can find some of this on my website as well. UFOs are indeed highly advanced craft capable of space flight, for sure, because I've seen them in space.